Okay, so for this week, we are talking about self-belief and self-mastery and how this is going to affect your world, your practice life, your business life, you as a leader, you as an entrepreneur, you as a dentist with your patients, and how you actually lead your life is very important because it starts with you. And in school, we don't get to focus on ourselves because we're trying to focus on building this craft. And so your key takeaways for this week are a few things. Number one is realizing why self-mastery is important. Number two, want you to understand these 8 questions, and they're going to be up as well, but this is going to give you a guide so that you can start to dive deep into understanding and knowing who you are. And you can actually use it with your team members in huddle, as conversation starters, but really the focus is on you, okay? Third, you want to be able to practice what you learned in this section with patients every day this week and in your practice with your team members every single day this week. Like I said, repetition, practice makes perfect, right? Lastly, you are going to have an exercise that focuses in on loving yourself first. And why and what that even means. Well, it really is making a list of 10 to 15 things that really light you up. Okay? And this is your permission. There's no textbooks behind it. There's none of that. It's just giving yourself the time to really focus on, okay, what are these key characteristics that make me unique? What is it in my own life that needs a reboot? Maybe it's spending more time in the gym, or perhaps it's creating a morning routine. We're gonna get into all of this as the modules go on, but pay attention to what comes up. Now, in my own life, as you know, as a dentist, as an entrepreneur, I used to run into a ton of walls trying to figure out, okay, what would patients want? How to provide the problem, consequences, and solution to sell big case treatments. And really, doctors and dentists, we've spent countless hours of trying to master our craft, to get the perfect crown, to get the perfect veneers, knowing every detail about the anatomy, patient failures, and case mishaps. But when was the last time you mastered knowing yourself? If you think about it, every great leader must understand their strengths and weaknesses. So therefore, which brings me to this first exercise, is the challenge every single day this week is to spend 10 to 15 things to journal about these different parts of yourself. What makes you come alive? What makes you you and authentically you? What are things that you like to do every single day, but probably you don't? So these are things that you're particularly good at. Maybe they're books that you want to read, or you just haven't had the chance to open that up. But at the end of this week, you should have about 50 to 60 things that light you up. And remember, these are things that make you feel good. Maybe they're things that you're not quite good at, but they actually make you come alive. So time is precious. You have 24 hours in the day, and to cultivate your emotional confidence muscle, to build that strength, practice and building that foundation is essential to creating your emotional toolkit, which we're going to be diving into in the next coming weeks. So to go through the storms within your practice, as well as some of the nuances with your team, I'm giving you permission. Do what absolutely makes you feel bold, okay? So who are you? Who are you today? Who are you as a leader for your team? Who are you as a leader in your own world? Not what your practice or your community wants you to be. Who are you? And, you know, for a period of time, I used to struggle with this because as a female, I thought, oh, female dentist, you know, I would constantly get questions about my age. And I started my practice early on. I started at, I was 27. And for me, the biggest hurdle in growing my dental practice was having my practice situated in one of the western suburbs of Chicago. And it was Lisle, and very much the community was very, very old. Lots of elderly community there. And that was the constant question that I would get was, oh, who's the doctor? Who's the assistant? Are you the assistant? Are you the hygienist? And so for those of you female dentists out there and doctors, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But, you know, it's how you respond to that. Because I think for a very long time, I used to govern my practice in the sense that it would definitely affect my ability to communicate treatment with patients. It would definitely affect my ability to communicate what was right for the team. And for a very long time, I didn't lead with authenticity. In fact, I had one of my key employees who actually embezzled $20,000 from me over the course of 6 months. And that was a huge learning lesson. She would steal files from the office. And really, it became a really toxic environment. And for those of you who've been embezzled before, you probably can know that that could be a very destructive and very painful part of the business experience. And it was, in reflecting back, it was really because I didn't know what kind of leader I was. I, on the one hand, wanted to be friends with my team members because I thought that I needed to, in order to be a great business leader, I needed to understand all of my team members. And for me, that meant to be friends with all of them. Well, in fact, I wasn't creating any boundaries within myself. And because I had this belief that I was young, I used that in the way that I would lead my practice. And that, it did two things. It not only caused this spell of this turnaround rate that I had. I was constantly going through many different employees, many different team members, and I would always say, gosh, it's so hard to find the right team. And again, that was another limiting belief that I had. And it wasn't until I had significant things that happened in my personal life, when I had my divorce, when I went through a tumultuous personal divorce, it wasn't until then where I realized that it really doesn't matter. You're giving your team the opportunity to work with you, to build your vision, and you should be able to find the right team members in order to do that. And so for me, that was a huge lesson in we're giving the opportunity. And so people should feel very grateful that they are being able to be part of something greater than themselves. And so once I took all of those things off the table, I started wearing makeup. I stopped leading from fear. I started showing my personality. A lot of the patients that I had that were toxic left my practice. I started attracting really amazing patients that were open to the type of practice that I wanted to create, which was a cosmetic dental practice. And things just became much easier. Why? Because I was authentic. And what does authenticity mean? Well, you are going to find out within this exercise what makes you come alive. What are you willing to tolerate? What do you enjoy doing? For so long, I had classical music playing in the office. And while I do love classical music when I was studying or when I'm actually in creative mode, when I'm actually working, I love, for instance, the combination of eclectic / party dance music. And we would then create parties in the office because why? Our patients really hated coming to see us, right? And so for me, being able to take our patients through this journey, through this experience, when they had and how they were able to be greeted at the front and be able to have questions asked to them about not just about their day, but really their emotions. And so this began this process of creating this whole journey and experience of what types of even content they were consuming. So we took out all magazines in the office and only put, positive, spiritual, thought-provoking items that they could actually have within the office. I took out TVs, and even in the operatories, I had TED Talks. So again, it was this whole creative experience that would take these patients into our little world of what I was trying to create. And so again, that was my authenticity in the practice. And what it did was three things. I began to cut my days off. I was only working 3 days a week. I had my practice soared within, 6 months. It was doing over $1 million in revenue, and then we were able to sustain that for 3 years until I decided to sell the practice. And so then so many other colleagues caught on to this, and they were asking, how are you traveling so much? I started a foundation on the side. I was doing a lot of speaking about this story, and really it started with authenticity, and it started with what kind of leader and how do you want to serve, and what's the highest way that you can serve. And for me, it was showing my personality, being vulnerable, which we're going to talk about, but also understanding the pain points of your patients and understanding the why. They come in for a toothache. Is it really a toothache though? And when we started to dive into the 4,000 patients that were in my practice and their stories, and really being able to sit down and understand where they're coming from, you realize a lot of times it isn't just about the filling. And for my practice, where a majority of the patients were over the age of 55, they really just wanted to talk. And when you built that relationship based on sharing some unique aspects about you as a doctor, as a dentist, so that it's not just, ego or this white coat, then the barriers come down. And that's when we get to the secret sauce. And that's what we're teaching. So this week's lesson, or this module, is really all about authenticity and what that means for you. So I challenge you to take this and go and share this in your practice with your team members and encourage each and every one of them. And by the end of these 8 modules, you'll be able to empower your teams as well so that they can incorporate this in how they treat the patients and how they come to the table and what attitudes they bring to the table just by being a little bit more authentic.